it's Preeti and I'm from the Mercury Protocol, and this is our first development update. The purpose of these updates is to give the community an update on how our development progress is going with the protocol. We'll probably do these once every other week or so. And this is our first one, and I'll just introduce myself and let the other team members introduce themselves as well, and then we'll jump into what the protocol does at a high level for those of you who might not have heard of it yet, and then we'll jump into some of the development updates we've made. So I'm Preeti Kasreddy, and I'm the lead blockchain developer on the protocol. And then we also have Alex and Elliot on the call.
Just switching the screen here. Hi, it's Alex. I'm working on the Mercury Protocol, doing back-end development, making the Ethereum blockchain talk to Mercury Protocol on the back-end server to make it available to apps.
And I'm Elliot, and I'm working on feature development with smart contracts so that we can have protocol integrated features in our app Dust right now and eventually other apps down the road.
Awesome. I'll just give a quick couple-minute overview of what the actual protocol does, just so you have a quick overview. Let me share my screen. So we're building something called the Mercury Protocol, and the idea is we want to kind of build a protocol for other communication applications. And our vision with the protocol is that we want to, create a more trustless and more private, more secure and application agnostic communication network. And our main goals with this is to create a protocol that helps reduce harassment, reward positive behavior from users, and doesn't monetize user data. And because some of the problems we see with the current communications platforms is that they lack, users don't have any privacy. There's a lot of incumbent bias, meaning it's hard for a smaller player to come on and compete against the big giants like Facebook and Twitter and so forth. Most importantly, there's a lot of harassment and trolling. And lastly, a lot of these platforms are very centralized and don't have the opportunity to be much more open and trustless. And so we're building, our solution is kind of four-part, and one component is we're trying to create an ownerless system for user data and content. So no single application that integrates with the protocol will own any of the content. Instead, that content lives with the protocol, some of it on the blockchain, some of it off the blockchain, using things like Swarm IPFS. Some of it will be public, and some of it will be private, based on what the type of data it is. For example, keys and stuff will be stored privately, and then more public data like addresses will be stored publicly. And this is kind of one component of it, so ownerless data. And then the second component is the reward system. So this is why we're doing a token sale, where we're allowing participants to buy something called a global messaging token, or GMT. And the idea is we want to use this token to incentivize various behaviors on applications that integrate with the protocol. So, for example, you can reward users for being active on your platform, or you can reward users for hopping onto your app earlier and being an early adopter. Or you can kind of create a revenue scheme where basically you create services that content creators have to pay for users to see their content, and then the users get paid a certain amount, and then the application gets paid a majority of amount. So you can kind of create this new kind of revenue model out of it. Various types of creative things you can do with the token. Component is the reputation system, and we really think that by thinking through how to build a working reputation system, something like the credit card score, that works across different applications that integrate with the protocol. And then the idea is this reputation is a metric of network participation quality. So if a user participates positively and adds positively to a platform, they have a higher reputation versus someone who has negative behavior. And our goal with this is that by putting costs on people's quality of behavior on these platforms, we can create a more sustainable ecosystem over time, instead of some of these social networks, which you'll see that they'll start off really, really cool, but then they become really, really unhealthy and a lot of harassment and trolling over time. We want to prevent that kind of thing with our reputation system. And lastly, the last feature is that it's going to be cross-platform. So any application that integrates with the protocol will be able to communicate with any other application that lives on the protocol. And we're going to kind of release a more technical white paper about all these different components and exactly how these work in the coming months. But this is just a very, very high-level overview of the protocol. And so now I kind of want to give an update on some of the things that we've been working on, and I'll start off by talking about particularly the stuff related to the token sale that we have coming up. And so we're going to be doing a token sale, and obviously for that we have to write smart contracts, and we have just finished the final versions of those smart contracts, pre-audited, and they've been just sent to the our auditors last night. And currently we tried to keep everything as simple as possible, including the token sale and the contracts, to avoid to reduce the surface area for attacks. And so we only have 2 smart contracts for the entire token sale. One of them actually manages the main token sale, and the other one holds the employee related allocations for during the lockup period and so forth. So it's a very simple token contract, and we'll be releasing all the code publicly within the next few weeks once our audits are completed. And then the second thing is we've done a bunch of simulations both on our private Ethereum network and on the testnet Ethereum network of these token sales. And the idea is we want to do as many simulations as possible of our token sales so that we're confident that when we go out, it ends up being a very successful token sale, and we kind of eliminate any chance of failure in the smart contracts or bugs and so forth. And we ran various types of simulations. For example, we ran one where we pretended to have an unsuccessful sale because some minimum cap was not reached, and then the participants had to get a refund. Another type of sale was where we had to stop the sale because of an emergency situation and mark it as failed and return the funds. We also did simulations of more successful sales where the minimum cap was reached and all the tokens were distributed appropriately. And all these simulations went well, and we're going to continue to do and test various types of scenarios, particularly high throughput scenarios where we might have a large amount of money coming in and really being able to handle that kind of throughput over the coming weeks. As we get closer to a token sale, we're going to be running more and more of these simulations. So for right now, we've ran all these simulations on the private net as well as the Ring-B testnet, and we'll be sharing the addresses of these contracts again in the coming weeks once we have finalized everything and are allowed to share it publicly. I'll hand it off to Alex, who's going to talk more about the integration between the Dust backend server and the Ethereum network.
So Preeti's been talking about the way we're going to do the token sale and how that's been implemented. But what I've been working on is connecting a real Ethereum blockchain either on our own little private test network or the Ring-B public test network into a Java coded server that can talk to contracts that Elliot's created or that I've created or anyone on our team has, take state from that blockchain and deliver it to anyone who hits, say, a RESTful endpoint or wants to access a database. We store it in there. So what we've been trying to focus on is make something that's flexible so that the protocol is easily usable by other apps. One of the ways we've done that is things like contracts. When you deploy it on the network, gets a specific ID, and if we want to make a change to that contract, just a slight change, the ID is going to change because you have to redeploy. So we have this metadata, contract metadata, that you can access at any time to make it, the main thing we're trying to solve with that is we don't want to have to redeploy or push version updates to all the Android or iOS phones out there. So things like that we're trying to take care of. So that's actually something that we've gotten through this week. So we're making a lot of progress. It's looking pretty good. That's pretty much where we are with the backend server.
And then from my end, so I've been working on our feature-based smart contracts. So these are basically the smart contracts that connect the blockchain to our backend. They kind of bridge that gap. And basically, in developing these features, we wanted to kind of put any information we could on the blockchain to kind of create a more trustless feature. So, things like a list of featured users or something like that, we'll actually be storing that on the blockchain in the smart contract, and then through the Java server that Alex has been working on, we'll be able to fetch that data. So that's all handled, in a trustless way on the blockchain. But then our app, currently Dust, will be able to interact with that data and use it appropriately in the app. So right now we have one of our feature smart contracts almost feature complete. It's integrated with GMT. It's deployed on the testnet, and we're hoping to have it ready to send out to security auditing by the end of the week.
Awesome. That was awesome, Elliot and Alex. Thanks. And one of the main things we want to iterate is all the code that we're writing right now is going to be open source, and we're going to be even open sourcing some of the stuff we learned as we're building out the underlying integrations between the backend and stuff. For example, setting up your own private net or integrating with your own backend server versus the protocol. All this stuff will be open source closer towards the end of the year or Q1 of next year, sometime around then. But until then, we'll continue to give you updates. And I think that's it for the first one. And we'll also, along with this video, we'll have a written post that complements it, that kind of talks through the same points in a written format. So we'll do that. And until next time, thank you for watching. And Alex and Elliot, say bye.
Thanks.
See ya. Thank you.